game, there's actually, unlike any other Castlevania games, this one actually does have movement options known as the backflips.
Yeah, the in Castlevania, like all prior Castlevanias, like usually the character you play as, like can only jump forward. Sometimes you can even control the direction you're going. Like if you were jumping forward, that was the direction you were going in. Like in Castlevania 1 through 3. But here we're playing as Richter. So if you press jump again before you reach the peak of your jump, you'll actually perform a backflip. And a lot of the speedrun is done facing the opposite direction because of this, because the backflip gives you extra height and it moves you a little bit faster.
If I remember correctly, it saves you like 0.2 seconds or something.
Yeah, so every optimal, every sort of well-performed backflip will save you that little bit of time. And so we're doing in this speedrun, you just do it almost constantly. Yeah. So that was the prologue, and now we are in stage 1. You might be familiar with some of these stages. A lot of these settings are similar to Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see the backflip right here. He's not particularly fighting very many enemies. He's just backflipping over them. Yeah, that extra height just allows you to avoid so many of them.
Mm-hmm. Damage boosting isn't that great in this particular. You can still do them, but it's not ideally, since you take a lot more. I think if I remember correctly, Richter takes a little bit more damage than any other Belmonts in the series itself.
Yeah, and another thing about this game is, unlike previous Castlevanias, you don't have as many iframes. So, like, you can get comboed really easily in this game if there are like a bunch of enemies all over you. It's pretty crazy.
It is.
So we're coming up on the first boss. This is there are optional paths throughout each stage, and you took the quickest one.
In fact, in this particular 80% run, all the routes that you take are actually going to be all the sub routes, because they're all a lot more faster than just going through the main story of the game.
Okay, he needs to be careful. His life is pretty low. All right, he got it. So earlier in the in the boss fight, he used the only instance of the item crash, which was the Hydra Storm. You're probably familiar with it from Symphony of the Night, but sad to say,
that's the only time.
Yeah, that's the only time you get to see it, because the item crash is actually not very effective on many of the stages, many of the levels, or any other instances.
Yeah.
So stage 2 is pretty straightforward. There is a bit of a scary section, because you won't be moving for quite some time, but right here you can see the backflip. He's getting trolled a little bit by these bone pillars. You can get some varying RNG there with the enemies,
especially with the birds. They really tend to like home things down.
He's also picking up certain big hearts. Like, we're keeping track of our ammo here. So he takes a little bit of damage. He's gonna grab that backup health. Now it looked like he was intentionally gonna kill himself right there, but you actually fall right there to get to this this sort of bonus path, I guess. You're on the ferryman, and another Castlevania 2 callback. And this is the section I'm talking about. These mermen, you're kind of just stuck on this boat, and you can move back and forth. And you see Varouche, he's actually ducking, because sort of similar to Castlevania 1, if you take damage while you're crouching, you don't get knocked. You don't get the knockback or displacement from taking damage.
Yeah, especially on this boat, if you actually take damage while you're standing, you'll just fall off the boat a lot of times, and that's not a good thing. Especially with the amount of iframes that you get, you might get wombo comboed, especially on the last half of this one.
Okay, so you made it through. That's great. If you die there, I think you have to go all the way back. It's pretty punishing death.
Yeah, no boss there. Quick reminder, just to give you a heads up, unlike other Castlevanias, the sub weapon, the hearts that you get, doesn't drain at the end of the stage. It goes along with you through the next stage, which is actually a good thing. Because in this particular game, there's no multipliers, unlike other Castlevanias from like 1 to all the way to Super Castlevania 4. But the sub weapon count, the amount of hearts that you have, will get you the multiplier. Like having 31 allows you to have like 2 or 3 crosses on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's multiplied by the secondary digit. So if you have 20, you can throw 2 on the screen, to 20 or more, and if you have 30 or more, you can throw 3 on the screen. So it's pretty interesting that the game does that. So a lot of times, but for the most part, we actually don't need more than 3. There's some wall chicken right there that he's going to grab before the boss. So you're going to see it in effect here. He's going to try to get below this boss, the Igor, and then you just gotta load these axes on him.
Yeah. This one here is also another sub route for the game. For this stage here, it's way faster than going through the other intended round because you still got like a lot more enemies to deal with. One thing about this game, in this game, is after you beat the boss, you can still get damage from the actual boss doing anything else from desperation attacks. One thing about it, though, you don't die from it, with the exception of Shaft, which you'll see him later in the game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a troll. Like, just sort of, you sort of go through the entire game and you're just like, oh, that won't kill me. But then that one boss, Shaft, will actually destroy you with his desperation attack. But the game counts down the life and the hearts, so the less life you have before you get to that countdown, the better. So very important to drain your health there for the purposes of the speedrun. Okay, so this is a very RNG heavy portion of the game. He's getting good RNG right now, but these frogs will always spawn in the same spot, but those skeletons that are hanging from the ceiling, they're random. So he got a bad spawn right there, and the movement of the skeletons is also random. So
the one thing about the skeletons also, although they're random, they're also at fixed random spots. So they're like, no matter where they spawn, they'll spawn there, but at that particular spot, no matter or not if it's there or not there. Speaking of what we mentioned earlier about the backflip mechanic in this game, you'll see that a lot in this particular. You'll see the major difference in this stage particularly, because this stage here is just mainly a whole horizontal cakewalk that you just got to go through between the harpies, and so getting those backflips does save you a lot of extra time.
Okay, he took a lot of damage there, so it's probably prudent to get some life, because this boss is it's actually pretty rough. You take to survive this boss, you have to intentionally take some damage if you're going to do it quickly.
He's going to pick up the Bible here, which is actually the best sub weapon in the game, which you'll see in just a little bit.
Might be the best sub weapon in most Castlevania games. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe the Holy Water has been effectively, the best one in some of them. But yeah, the Bible is very unique to this game. You hardly ever see it in any other Castlevania. But what makes it so good is, well, first things first, you don't get to throw multiple Bibles, but it
It just goes around the
yeah,
screen.
it just goes around the screen. Is active for such a long time, and it actually takes 3 hearts. So, but the nice thing about it, oh man, that's an incredible section right there from Bruges, just backflipping over those enemies. It's very tight to do that without dying or falling off the platforms. But he's doing a good job here, and by picking up the Bible, he doesn't have to worry about item multipliers anymore. So
Yeah.
and just being a little bit safe. There's a lot of backup health in this speed run. So, and this is the very RNG dependent mid boss right here. This is the magic sword. You just got to jump up and hit it. The Bible does not do anything. Your sub weapons do not hit this enemy. Only your whip. So.
Yeah. Luckily, it takes 1 health. Yeah, it only takes 1 hit.
Yeah, it only takes 1 hit. He got some bad RNG there, but it's fine. And now he's fighting a painting. You might think this enemy is very trivial, but if the painting touches you, it's a 1-hit kill. So don't run into the painting. Like that's sort of a troll enemy right there. Everyone's first playthrough through this game, they just die to that painting because they have no idea what that's about.
Yeah. The one thing about this stage, this is actually one of the hardest stages to actually speedrun in this game, especially for this part of the screen. It is the harpies. They do spawn, and they spawn heavily on RNG. In world record runs, you'll actually try to do like damage boosts off those heavy armors that you see here, but you probably want to play it safe and not do much. Oh, got the leap of faith right there. It's good.
Yeah, that's a tricky backflip to get right. So he's pretty low on hearts. You particularly want to have a little bit more before you get to the next stage, because you're going to be doing a big boss rush. But first, we have to get past Death himself. And the left, you'll see on the left and the right, so you're on top of this ship, and you can actually fall off in this boss fight and you just die instantly. On top of that, you are trying to navigate past all of these little mini scythes that do quite a bit of damage to you. And Vrush is handling it very well, I have to say.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken any damage yet. You can use your Bible on death.
It's a good panic. It's a really good panic if you just need to get rid of all the slices on the screen,
right?
Especially if it gets like really heavy on that.
But so far so good. He has entered the second phase, so Death is now going to take you on one-on-one. No tricks, just the scythe. Well, actually, he has some mini scythes. What a jerk! Yeah. But yeah, with the exception of that 1 hit, it's pretty much a perfect death fight. So I can't ask for anything better than that. If you get past death in this speedrun, like, it's a huge relief, because usually this is the main roadblock throughout this real-time attack.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So before we get to the 6th stage, we have a cutscene. So
yeah, and it is Saturday morning, so it really fits in with
yeah.
all this.
Saturday morning anime.
Yeah. I miss those days.
Dragon Ball Z on channel 12, whatever. But this is not Dragon Ball. We got Dracula, and Dracula is actually talking to Richter's girlfriend, girl with the purple hair. That's Annette. Yeah.
Yep. So, quick note to notice: if this is your for going through the first playthrough, you're you're mandatory to watch this cutscene, especially in this game. But once you beat this, once you get past this one, and you do another playthrough on the same file, you actually get to skip this cutscene.
Yeah,
Which,
in Maria, they actually don't even see this. So.
yes. So yeah, but to make the official run for Richter 80%, it has to be a new file. So you have to watch this cutscene to have it.
It's a nice little, downtime. Just give you a breather.
Yeah.
Especially, like usually world record runs, you're taking death, the death fight, very, risk heavy. So it's a nice little relief before you proceed on with the video game.
Yep.
Yeah, the stretch Armstrong Dracula just sort of grabbing Annette's face. It's been my favorite part.
Yep.
So really what's happening in this cutscene is Dracula is having, a very intimate conversation with Annette, and then he gets interrupted from Shaft, and Shaft is telling Dracula that there's an intruder in the castle. So Vrush right now, he's going to pick up some extra hearts. Again, we talked about this a boss rush coming up, and it's going to be right after this door. You're just going to be stuck in this one room. You're going to be fighting about 5 bosses in a row.
Yeah, four bosses that you'll see in CV1, and then Shaft himself. About the good thing about the stage here, if you actually mess up on the boss rush for any reason, the screen that you just saw has all the sub weapon that you'll need, particularly the Bible, of course, because it is literally the best. Yeah, you can see the Bible shredding things like that bat really easily.
Yeah, and Symphony of the Night, this area is actually it's called the Marble Gallery, and it's the same here in Round of Blood. So that I've never seen that strat from Bruges fighting the Medusa, doing it damageless. So it's pretty awesome to see. You can do. Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's this little safe spot right there against Akmodan. So you just crouch right there, and then you have to make sure you jump past these blocks there, because they will kill you if you get crushed against the wall.
Yeah. Well done right there. We got Frankenstein here. Try to pull some grappling moves.
Yeah. No SPDs, no grabs.
Right.
But yeah, Vrush actually intentionally took damage there. That just makes the fight just a lot faster, because you just crouch, you take his electricity attack, and then you just get to whip Frankenstein right away. So now we have Shaft himself, and he's very tricky. Like he has 2 different patterns. He can jump to the right or the left. It's better if he jumps to the left, which Vrush got, so that's very fortunate for him. And now these orb attacks, so long as he throws the Bible, should be able to avoid them. And yeah, Shaft just sort of goes back and forth, and just needs to make sure he doesn't die, and he's good.
Yeah.
So this is the desperation attack that will actually kill you if you're way too low on life. But Rush is in good shape, and now he's moving on to stage 7.
Yeah. Luckily, that man, he just got in between in the desperation attacks right there.
Oh yeah. That's usually you can get lucky sometimes. If you really want to take damage from it, you should just jump right into it. But typical sort of near end game stage for Castlevanias, you have this bridge here with the bats chasing you, and this one they've sort of upped the ante. Sort of in Castlevania 4, the bridge is crumbling, and then they added bats here, and some of the bats even have swords in their hands.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, it is crazy. Luckily, if there's a lot of bats in the field that you can't, the Bible will take care of it. So in case it gets really bad for any reason.
So this
Go
section
ahead.
probably looks familiar if you've played through Symphony of the Night. So he's trying to do a clip right there between the gears, the cogs, and it took him a couple tries, but finally got it. It is faster to do it that way.
Yes, sir. Little clock tower climb here. Coming right up, he'll start clipping through the wall here.
Yeah, that's what makes the backflip so good. So that little extra height that you get doing the backflip will actually allow you to clip through some floors. As my friend Countdown said, walls are just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so he does a little damage boost right there from the armor. He gets that backflip up to that section. That's like a shortcut. And it's like very tricky to get that. And he got it first try. So I give him props for that. That's amazing.
That is really amazing indeed. Did you get that on your SGDQ run by any chance? I don't remember.
I actually, I can't even remember. I was so in the moment. I have no idea about like what was happening. But
yeah.
Any case, Vrush is doing an awesome job here with his run.
Yes.
And we have one more boss before we get to Dracula. It's a ghostly figure. Who could it be? It's actually the ghost of Shaft. You can't even see him on the screen. He's invisible. But right? Finally he appears. Unfortunately, Vrush does not get the manipulation here. What you can do is you can actually get him in this infinite, and he's taking some damage right now. It's actually very tricky to get him in this loop, where you just damage him over and over. But Shaft is throwing like tons of enemies on the screen. This is what the fight normally looks like. There are bats, there are big enemies coming at you that are being summoned, and it's very nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking. Yeah, this fight particularly could be the easiest fight if you actually get it, or the hardest if this happens. And
okay, he's in good shape. He got that extra health for a reason, so he's all good now, and he's almost at the end of the game. The only concern here are his hearts, so he just needs to get some big hearts, but he might run out of them before he finishes the game.
But definitely in good shape though, for sure. So
this is not a Metroidvania Castlevania game. It is like other. It's like the previous Castlevanias, like so. I would say it's more like Castlevania 3 than anything, because there are multiple paths and you can go different routes.
So he has 22 hearts. That's good enough for 7 Bibles. On this particular fight, you ideally want to get only use 4 Bibles, because you could 4 cycle in this fight. Because you could get 3 hits with a Bible, and then 1 whip to get the 4th hits, and you get it from there. But I think he misses it, which is fine. It's okay.
Yeah, you have to solve for 5 cycle, and now it's Dracula's final form. It's not the Cookie Monster, but a little more menacing than that. All right, so now he's out of Bibles. Okay, so that's actually really good. So Dracula jumped into the corner. So long as you just time your movement just right, you should be able to avoid a lot of these attacks. He just jumps at you and he spits these fireballs. Okay, 1 more hits. He's gonna get damage right there. Just gotta hit him, and that's GG's for Vrush.
Yep.
So that was Castlevania 4, or not
Rondo of Blood.
Yeah, Castlevania 4, Rondo of Blood. Castlevania 5, I should say. This is the sequel to Castlevania 4. But that was Rondo of Blood. My name is Just Defend, and I was joined by Shin David.
Thank you very much. Hey,
thank you all for watching. And it's really awesome to see the French speedrunners put this on.
Yep. I think what's next is
I think it's Nier.
Near Automata. So for those going to be watching that, enjoy the rest of this
Yes,
marathon.
enjoy the marathon. It's a good one.
It's really indeed.